Welcome back to the Worship Care podcast. We are so excited to be actually doing this journey. Welcome, Ellie. Welcome, Jamie.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us again. We're going to have some fun today.
Yes.
And I think today is we're going to laugh a lot. We're going to joke a lot. We're going to make fun of people a lot.
Don't we always?
We're going to make fun of people.
So I want to talk about this worship fails. That's all over the internet, and it's all over. I'm pretty sure that if you view any sort of church content on Instagram or on Facebook Shorts or YouTube Shorts, you'll always find these little worship fails. But what I want to talk about, I don't just want to joke about it. I want to actually talk about how do we address these fails, or how do we handle these fails on a Sunday, because things happen.
Yeah.
Like it's not an issue. We're all human. We make mistakes. We mess up. We play the wrong chords. So we'll dive into stuff.
You play the wrong chords.
Whoa! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Not even in our church.
Not even 5 minutes in.
Staying here late.
Jamie 1, Diego 0.
Anyway, so that might as well bring up our first example of playing the wrong chords. So I remember one of my first times joining the church and playing on stage or on platform, my very first Sunday. I remember clearly I was serving with you, Ali, and we were doing our service rehearsal. So the way we run services is we actually do a little rehearsal before the time, and then we run through a quick version of our full service, which we call service rehearsal. And we play with a countdown and we play live. And I remember we were supposed to crash on the C. And I, with confidence, and I've got to say that
It's always with confidence. You have to be with confidence.
I knew I was right? And I crash on the D. And Ali looks around at me and he's like, "Can we just do that again? But can you just do it on the C this time, please?" And that was my very first time playing with.
Was I at least gracious about it?
No, you weren't.
Oh.
You literally turned around and you were like, "Okay, can we just try that again, guys? And Diego, can you just crash on the C this time, please?" Like but I was grateful that it was during service rehearsal and not during the actual live service. So for me,
during the actual live service, I would not turn around and correct you.
I would hope so. So that's kind of where I'm getting at. Like, yes, we make mistakes, but how do we handle it in a live service? What is our response? Because I am a distraction right now to the congregation, but I don't want to be. How do I do that? So that's my question.
Jamie, in our previous episode, I remember, because I chuckled inside, she said, she's a very expressive person. And when things go wrong or when something's afoot, she reminds herself that she can't be expressive. And we're all like that. I think worship leaders typically are very expressive and have very honest faces. Yeah. And we show what we're feeling, I mean, that just assists with worship. We express outwardly with body language and expression our love for God, etc., etc. So when blunders happen, it's very easy to crack a smile and look around and shame the person with your eyes, or to make it funny. But it's in those moments to actually not do that. Because, like you say, in that moment, it's bad enough the singer or musician is already a distraction. You, as a fellow team member, don't still need to add salt to the wound, or gasoline to the fire in that moment. Just let it pass.
Yeah. So there's like normal mistakes that happen. Like, Jamie, do you have any worship fails that you'd like to share? Because I've shared mine.
We had
you've
one
pulled
recently,
mine out.
actually. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where the loop just wouldn't play, and it was the first song, the praise song. We were doing Freedom, and I was like, welcoming the church, let's get ready to praise, waiting for the click, nothing. Dead silence, everyone staring at me. And I think I actually didn't get it right to hide my facial expressions. I did a little bit of a on the mic. But then we recovered quite well because the drummer just started playing and we just did the whole song without the loop, which was very scary, but it worked. So like you said, I think it's important. With the minor mistakes, the congregation doesn't always notice. Yeah. So if we make a weird facial expression or you're looking at this person next to you, like, what are you doing? Then they'll be even more distracting. And I always tell our team, it takes it already takes them so long to get into it. So now you're doing something so small that can be really distracting, and you lose that whole 10 minutes of them actually being in God's presence, because now they're like, what's going on? You know? So I think it's important for us to try our best to act as if everything's fine, even if it's not.
And I think that's a common problem, because that happened to us last week, actually. And I think the benefit that you guys have is you're not going out live, like on Facebook. We go out live. So when things go wrong, we're going wrong all over the place. And I mean, with us, because we do our loops on an iPad, and the iPad died. And this was with like 30 seconds left to go on the countdown. And we noticed the iPad's dead. We've got nothing. We've got no click. We've got no tracks. We've got no guides. And our MD was like, okay, cool. We're just going to go with it. And the challenge is that our musicians haven't rehearsed doing that before. And I think that's also, so now you're in this position where, do I go with it? And we were all a little bit unsure of what we do. And something that actually saved us, which I was actually really, really, really appreciative of, is our stage manager came up, sorted the iPad out. iPad was busy restarting, and our pastor noticed that this was happening as well. And what he did was he got up on platform and he welcomed the church as if nothing was going on. And when I watched back that service, I was like, that's so amazing, because it didn't lose focus. It didn't interrupt the congregation. The pastor welcomed the church as if nothing was going on. He just wanted to say something about, because I think it was the Springbok, the rugby weekend. He just wanted to say something about that. And it seemed so natural and so normal. And then he was like, he prayed and he opened up the service. And by the time they'd done that, our tracks were up and running, and we'd play and we ran the song, and then that was perfectly fine. Nobody noticed. I can guarantee you nobody noticed. But had we freaked out on stage,
that's it.
The whole church would have noticed, and the whole church would have been like, okay, what's going on now? What are these people doing? How are they even proper worship leaders and stuff like that? Because you do get that panic state sometimes. That it does happen. And
I think that's so beautiful, because I was going to say this a bit later, but now it's perfect. It's so important for us to protect each other, you know, not just as a worship team, but for your lead pastor or service manager to protect the team so that it's not noticeable to the congregation. Because essentially, if I'm singing along the wrong lyric, or just I started wrong, and everyone else carries on doing it with me, it's not going to benefit anyone. So if someone else comes in, protects me, covers up for me, then essentially it's a win for the whole service and the whole team. So that's actually a great example, Diego.
So I want to ask Ellie.
Oh boy, when Diego starts smirking, I know what's coming.
So Ellie is an amazing worship leader. Let me start off like that.
Keep going.
But Ellie is an Energizer bunny of note. So tell me about some of your worship fails, Ellie.
Some of my worship fails. Wow. Getting lyrics wrong. I've had my fair share of getting lyrics wrong. I'll never forget. This was probably in 2017-ish, give or take. At that stage, our front line didn't have MD and click and track in our ears. We had wedge monitors or floor monitors. So obviously there's no click, there's no MD. It's just
you wing it.
You just hear some of the instruments and some of the vocals, and that's the mix you get. I was fresh to leading worship in church at that stage. It could have even been 2016. And it was, I'll never forget, the song was Relentless, and that song is Relentless. And song started playing. Now, if you know anything about that song, it's got no structure. It's got you can try and memorize that arrangement like you want. It doesn't flow. It's just not a natural flowing song. Anyway, song goes and my monitor starts feedbacking, as in it starts screaming at me like uncontrollably, so distracting that even the church is becoming aware. Now I'm fresh to leading worship in church at this stage. I eventually, out of desperation, just turn my monitor off. I go down, I turn it off. Now I'm so lost. As it is, it's a complex song. You've got no click, you've got no cues, you've got no MD. So by this stage, I'm freaked out because it's feedbacking, it's screaming at me. I've turned my monitor off. I have no cooking clue where I am in the song, and this is me. Love is relentless. And I'm like, but I'm so lost. I haven't got a clue. And I'm like, that's it. I'm done. They're never going to let me on this platform again.
Fired.
Yeah, fired. To this day, that is probably my worst worship experience ever. But we have to have fun. We have to make light of these things. You know, I might be jumping the gun here, but if there's one thing I've come to learn about life, about me as a person, and especially in this scenario of leading worship, you can never take yourself too seriously.
Yeah,
that's so true.
We take the role seriously. The mantle we carry as worship leaders, it's a serious one. We have a job to do. We have a mandate that's been given to us to lead our church into worship, and that's a beautiful privilege. But in doing so, we can never take ourselves seriously.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to be okay with laughing at your mistakes off stage.
Yeah.
Even in the moment, I've had moments where I've bashed into the microphone, for example, and then I'm like, "Are my teeth still there?" Like literally, while I'm singing, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are my teeth still okay?" You know, and then I chuckle and I'm laughing inside.
Yeah.
And we have to. You can't be too serious.
I think that also ties into being authentic.
Yeah.
So, like, this also happened to me the other Sunday. We were singing praise, and I was jumping so much that my pack fell out. And I was like, there's no way to do this gracefully. I'm just going to have to pick the pack up from the floor. And I did it, and I giggled a little bit. And like, if I was awkward, it would have made everything awkward. So I think it's so important to always be authentic and be yourself on stage.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to just do what you need to do. I mean, I dropped the iPad once. I was playing bass. Playing bass, and I turned around and I knocked the iPad off the stand. And the thing is, this wasn't even during like a song moment or something. This was during the altar call. So the pastor's up
That's
there,
painful.
like trying to invite people to Jesus and saying that like if this message was inspiring, and we're supposed to stand there, you know, you're supposed to be in the background, you're supposed to be not a distraction. You're supposed to pretend that you're not even standing there because that's your role at that point in time. Diego knocks the iPad over, the thing falls. Now I'm standing there because I've got a bass in my hand. I'm like, no, what do I do now? Because and again, like you say, you've got to just at this point in time, pick it up, do what you need to do it as subtly as possible.
Yeah.
Like even though that's not going to be a subtle movement, but if I do what I need to do, then I'm not going to distract the whole congregation. But if I freak out and go, what did I do now? And stuff like that. And our worship pastor actually gets up and he sees, and he's immediately up. He helps me. We drop the iPad again. It's actually quite funny. He picks up the iPad now. Like, I am so grateful that it didn't unplug or it didn't click play on something or something that happened. Like we were so fortunate. And we chatted about it afterwards, the worship pastor and I. And he said, the thing is, all I needed to do or all somebody needed to do was get up, help you, sort it out, fix the problem, done. It took 5 seconds, 10 seconds or whatever. And because we did that subtly and because nobody made a scene about it, nobody did anything, we were like, that was a proper serious moment. That was a moment where somebody's busy making a decision for Jesus.
Yeah.
And for me not to be a distraction, even though I dropped the iPad, sorry. Twice, yes. But just enacting that moment of, I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to sort myself out. And then I'm going to stand here like nothing happened. That's what we need to do.
That's it.
There's even more serious moments. I mean, Ali, we had a moment in church where one of our worship leaders. Bring it up. Like, I'll give it to you.
Jamie, this is really good. One of our worship leaders, she was leading with me. I was leading the first song, and I see out of my peripheral vision movement to my left. And all I could think of, that's one of our singers. You know, vocal 4 is moving, and I thought it was weird. And I'm singing, and I turn around and I glance, and worship leader had collapsed, completely lights out on stage.
Oh my
lifeless.
goodness.
And now I'm like, is she breathing? Did she have a heart attack? Literally, these are the thoughts I'm thinking. I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, before she's a worship leader, she's my friend.
Yeah.
And she's a fellow teammate. And I'm like, is this girl even still alive? I was so upset in that moment. And stage manager went up. Vocal 4 was assisting, and one of our pastors took stage to assist the situation. And literally milliseconds, so many thoughts are running through my head. I'm like, is she alive? Okay. Do we carry on with worship? What actually happens in this scenario? And literally all I could think of in that moment was, we're yet to lead worship. We're yet to get the church engaged and lead them to the throne room of our King.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's okay. And like, I turn around, the pastor shows me a thumbs up. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
And I said, church, I know this might be a bit distracting. She's okay. They've got this. She'll be fine. Let's just worship God. Let's choose not to be distracted in this moment. And we carried on as if nothing had happened.
And some people will look down on you for doing that. They're like, why didn't you stop? Why didn't you help? But the thing is, that's not your job at that point in time.
Absolutely. And also, Diego, in that moment, I thought, what would me stopping and going over there achieve?
Yeah.
I'm not a medical professional. It would only put my mind at ease that my friend's okay. I can see that she didn't have a heart attack.
But what's it going to do for the congregation?
What's it going to do for the congregation? How will me abdicating my position, my role, walking off stage, becoming even more of a distraction? Can we just push pause on the song?
Yeah.
It'll do nothing. It won't benefit the injured, and it won't benefit the church.
And we have people that take responsibility for that. We've got a stage manager that was there.
That's right.
We've got our pastor that took responsibility because he's in the front row and stuff like that. He was there. So there were people taking care of the situation. There were people fulfilling their function.
That's it. And then on top of that, we've got an incredible congregation. And this lady in our church, she's a medical responder. She came literally seconds later on stage with her full first aid kit. Like, I think she could have had a defibrillator in there and others. Like, she was fully kitted. Like, I was just blown away by the support of our church in that moment.
I think that also ties into the importance when you said, church, let this not be a distraction, in knowing when you need to address it with the church.
That's right.
To get people back on track with worship, and when it's okay. Like when my in-ear pack fell out, I didn't have to say, sorry guys, oopsie, let's move on. Yeah. But sometimes you do need to take that responsibility to get people back into the room, because like you letting them know that she's okay brings everyone back into the room, because else they would have been stressing.
Everyone else's mind at ease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the other thing is also, like, probably only the first 2-3 rows might have even noticed that she went down. The rest of the 15-20 rows wouldn't have seen anything. So stopping a service and saying, hey, sorry, can we just take a pause here? That's going to rob so many people from experiencing God. Because somebody could have been in a moment of worship, somebody in the back row who didn't see anything happen.
Yeah.
So taking that time to just go, thank you, church, don't worry, everything's cool, and we carry on, is benefiting more people than benefiting the one. And yes, I mean, we can talk about Jesus saying, leave the 99, go save the one and stuff like that. But again, there were people there doing that.
That's exactly
There were people taking responsibility. Your responsibility as a worship leader is to continue fulfilling your function. I mean, that's a serious example where obviously there was an injury involved. There was something that happened. I mean, we can talk about even things where they are more distracting. I mean, I was in my previous church that was in, we had a moment where we checked all the tracks and everything, but we didn't check the last one. I don't know why. And we hit play, and the click and guide come through the front of us.
No.
Yeah, that's
so the entire congregation hears verse 2, 3, 4, and then you just hear tick, tick, tick. And we literally stopped the song, or the worship leader at that point in time stopped the song and said, hey guys, we're so sorry for that. Can we just take a moment? And she said, okay, let's try that again and stuff. Let's just continue to stay in the presence of God. So sometimes when there is a big distraction that the whole congregation, because I mean, everybody heard verse 2, 3, everybody heard that. And probably people are wondering, hey, like, what is this? Sometimes it is necessary to take that step back and to say, okay, let's push pause, let's stop, let's recollect ourselves. And then we go on from there.
Absolutely. And you know what else I've come to realize is people aren't monsters. You know, this ocean of people in your church, they're actually your friends. They're actually okay. You know, they in as much as we might have our insecurities and our fears, I've come to realize that people are people, and generally people are kind-hearted and gracious. And when bizarre things and rare anomalies happen on stage, they're going to be okay with it. I remember some time back, I think it was earlier this year, I was playing keyboard, and I'm the Energizer Bunny, so of course I play that keyboard while, and the next minute that keyboard and its stand literally collapsed. The keyboard fell to my feet, and I'm like playing on my toes, kind of. And I'm like, okay, cool. So this just happened. I tell you, The stage manager, pastor, one of our pastors came to stage. They were all helping me. Now it's cables and it's the stand and it's the keyboard. It was such a circus. But again, most of the church didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I was like, how aren't people noticing? This is incredible.
Because they're worshiping, they're not focused on you.
Exactly. It was so cool. Like I was hosing myself. I was literally giggling as this was happening. I'm like, and the more we try to get the stand up, the more it's getting entangled in the cables. And I'm like, you're trying to do this so quickly to recover and just to get back. But we were actually laughing because it was just so comical.
But why does everything happen to you, Elliot? Because you've dropped your guitar as well on stage. Like your
not
strap
purposefully. My strap just came loose. The knot came loose, and there went my guitar. Hey, I caught it. On the plus side, I caught it.
But everything
Good reflexes.
I think to add on to that, I think it's the congregation appreciates us actually acknowledging it or addressing it because it makes them relate to us. Like, sometimes you see this person on the stage every Sunday and it's like, oh, like they're so cool, whatever.
So
but we just
They've got it all together.
Oh,
we're
no, we
normal
don't.
people. Like we definitely don't. If you acknowledge that you made a mistake or whatever, like you become relatable and people can approach you and have normal conversations.
Yeah.
They don't think you're this high and mighty person,
100%.
Yeah.
So how do we address this in the team? So obviously, back to our previous discussion, the previous episode we had, we spoke a little bit about this excellence versus perfection thing. And obviously we strive for excellence. How do we address a team or not a team, rather, somebody that's constantly making a mistake? So if I constantly play the wrong chords and stuff like that, because you don't want to address it on the day. My opinion is, I don't think you address it on the day or on the spot or anything like that. But what's the approach from, and Ali, you are a worship leader, so you are in charge of team. I take responsibility as an MD, so I stand more on the back line. Jamie is a worship leader as well. So from a leader's point of view, how do you address your team and what do you do to help someone not make those mistakes? Because as much as we're laughing and we're joking about it, at the end of the day, it can be a distraction, especially if it happens consistently.
Yeah.
So what's the correct Christian approach to correcting someone?
Well, I think in rehearsal, you'll quickly pick up those musical inconsistencies. And I think the responsibility on you as a worship leader or as a musical director is to be aware of what the team is doing. And then, we'll rehearse a song and I might cut the song short in the rehearsal, or we'll run the whole song and then, I might speak into a few things, just a few NBs and a few reminders. And I might address it there, not the person necessarily, but I'll remind the team, hey guys, I've heard every time we've hit the chorus, there are a few chord clashes. Just a reminder, this is the chord progression. So instead of going to the minor sixth, we're actually going to the fourth, okay? It's the subdominant. We're not actually going to a minor there. And let's just pay attention to that. Let's be aware of it. And you do it in a very graceful way.
Yeah.
Even though you might get frustrated and hot under the collar, these are volunteers. These are people. We have to be kind. And then if we run the song again and it's the same mistakes and it's the same, then it might need to be taken a little step further and just say, hey, musos, let's just quickly run it off track. Let's just acoustically just quickly run those chords together. We'll run it. If it's still not right, then I might go up to the person directly, very calmly, very incognito, without the rest of the team even being aware, and just say, hey, I notice you're really struggling with this chord progression. Just a reminder, this is what it is. Are you okay? What is tripping you up? Is there, because sometimes it can be confusing.
Yeah.
And then the person might say, I'm just getting really confused between the chorus and the pre-chorus. And then I might just give them some pointers. But if it's a constant pattern of the same person showing up unprepared, then there's a preparation error.
Yeah.
Then it's not necessarily a musical blockage or a limitation in their understanding of theory. Then it becomes a deeper issue of coming ill-prepared. And then you need to address that, again, in a very kind but direct way, privately, not in front of people. And just say, hey, you might need to pay attention to prepping a little more, et cetera, et cetera.
So before we dive into that one a little bit, I want to take one step back on something you said. is that you said like sometimes you'll go up to the person on platform. Now we have a very different dynamic, I think, in our team than most teams do. I think to our international audience, we a lot of international musicians or churches pay their musicians and stuff like that. So that's number one. So I think there's a responsibility there as
an expectation
as a paid musician. Yes. This is your job. You're getting paid to do something, so you have to come prepared. In our context, and I think in our country, a lot of musicians and a lot of people are volunteers. So there's a different expectation. Sometimes people just think, I'm not getting paid for this. This is my time. I'm volunteering my time. So I don't have, I've got kids, I've got all of this stuff. I think on the Sunday specifically, sometimes like I've made a call one Sunday before. And again, very graciously, don't worry. And I remember clearly the song was That's the Power. And That's the Power starts off with a very beautiful guitar intro. And I was playing bass that Sunday again, and the guitarist at that Sunday, he for some reason he just wasn't prepared with that intro specific. And I mean that's a part of the song that is very prominent.
It's crucial.
So if you are not prepared with that song or that intro, you're gonna like that whole intro of the song is messed up. And as an MD, I made the call. I said, okay, don't worry. I'll put the intro, I'll put the guitar parts in the track so that can play from a track perspective and you can play along. And the way we address it makes all the difference. Because I could have said, like, no, like you're just not doing well. Why didn't you prepare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it could have ruined that person's perspective of worship and why am I doing this? Yeah. But if we do it from a gracious point of view, sometimes it's okay to say, okay, let's put it in the tracks and then we'll help you next time we work. Yeah. So it's all about the way we do it. So I want to come to Jamie, because our church, for example, we don't have rehearsals during the week. A lot of
leading
churches leading up to a Sunday. Yeah. We don't. We expect our musicians and our vocals to come prepared. They need to know your stuff, and we essentially run through it on a Sunday morning. We don't practice and we don't workshop. Now, on the converse side of that, every quarter we do have workshops. So we do have sessions where we sit down our team and we can workshop a song and stuff. So we do
extensively.
So we do have a preparation. So our approach is completely different from what a lot of churches are. What is your church's approach, and how do you guys handle that or handle having to correct musicians or vocals?
So we're quite privileged in the sense that we do meet, our team meets every Tuesday. So we have that constant like check-ins. So we have something that we called deeply formed and highly skilled. So some practices will be highly skilled where we workshop a song or we sit with something that we've been struggling with as a team, but musically. And then our deeply formed would be more relational. So we'll do some scripture, check in with where everyone's at. So I think that's a great way of keeping the balance, because obviously we want people who are highly skilled and deeply formed, and we don't want to miss anyone there. In terms of correction, I think obviously it has to be handled with wisdom. So it depends. So it depends on what the context is, what the situation is. Sometimes on a Sunday, we do have to approach whatever's going on, the situation, in order to make the experience for the next service better, potentially. But that's always handled with wisdom. So I think it's important also, we always, like at every practice, we always highlight our church's values. And one of our values is to pursue excellence. So sometimes in a gentle way, you'll just tell someone, if you show up on a Sunday not knowing your lyrics, that's not pursuing excellence. And, you need to expect people to take accountability and trust your leadership. So I'm not telling you that because I'm trying to be mean. I'm telling you that because if you want to step into the calling of leading worship, you need to know your lyrics, or you need to know the chords. You know what I mean? So I think that's also very relational. If I don't know you or try to know you, I can't want to correct you. Yeah. So I think you have to have a relationship with the person where you know my heart and you know my intentions. So me correcting you right now isn't to hurt you. Obviously, in different scenarios, you'll wait until later that day or later that week and maybe have a phone call or an in-person conversation. But it's all contextual. But I do think you have to handle that situation with a lot of wisdom, because as you said, like, we volunteers, we don't get paid to do this.
Not yet.
Yeah. Well, that's your job, Diego.
I think, that's so good, because it comes down to a difference of what your church's values are, number one. and how you handle your team. Because like I say, we handle our team very differently. We don't have rehearsals, but one thing that you said is very important is that deep spiritual understanding and that being going deeper. And that's what I think our worship pastor, so we've got, or our structure is essentially we have a worship pastor that oversees all of worship. And then we've got worship leaders who obviously lead in our different campuses because we're a multi-campus church. And then we've got our music directors who take care of backline and stuff. And whenever we do workshops, our worship pastor always starts off with a word and why do this? And I mean, we had an MD workshop it's a couple months ago now. And our worship pastor sat down and said, why are we doing this? Let's look into the word and let's understand why we are doing this. And he spoke about a scripture, I think it's from 1 Peter, which says we're not doing this for ourselves. Essentially, we're doing it for the benefit of others. And then we as a team, we could dive into that scripture and we could understand, okay, why are we doing this? What is the purpose? And if we are correcting someone from that position of understanding scripturally why we are doing this, makes the conversation.
Scripturally, it's a good word.
Is that a word? Scripturally. Scripturally.
Sean Connery. Sean Connery is with us.
This isn't worship.
Sorry?
This is the English fails now. If we can talk to people from scripture.
Yes, thank you.
If we can do that.
Yeah.
Then it makes the conversation so much easier and so much more blessed because we do run teams differently. I mean, as much as I would love to get paid to play music, that is not what my heart is. My heart shouldn't be to get. I mean, Ali and I joke. Okay, but before I get there, we've got this term in our team where we joke a little bit and we should just be better.
Just be better, yeah. If we make a mistake,
just
be better.
But the thing is, I can say that because I've got relationship with Ali.
100%. And you mentioned it too.
If I didn't have a relationship with Ali and I walk up to Ali and I go, Ali, just be better, he's going to clap me.
Probably,
because we don't know each other.
Yeah.
But because we have that relationship, we can make jokes. Ali, I mean, in the week you posted my fail, like my little note.
It was so funny. On Sunday, Diego played a very bad note. And so I told him, listen, because we have this joke, this camaraderie. And I said to him, I was reviewing the worship service, and that's when I picked it up because I wasn't at the campus that he played at on Sunday. And one of my colleagues heard it and said, post it in the guitar group, Diego does it all the time. And I said, I will not do such a thing. So I told Diego about the fail and we had a good laugh. And then I found the recording, I screenshot it and sent it. But we had such a laugh.
But that's how we grow because I know from my perspective, I'm not perfect. I'm not the best musician. And sometimes I do go into that moment of I'm worshiping now and I forget I'm actually supposed to play and I'm supposed to concentrate. Or Hansi walks across with the camera across because we do live services and stuff like that. And then I get distracted. So I do make mistakes. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
But it's how you respond to that mistake. Because I could have taken offense at Ali coming, you played a bum note again and then like what's going on and stuff like that. You're going to be demoted to a bass player now.
Oh, wow.
We love our bassists. Don't go anywhere. You are crucial. Diego, you need to calm down.
You fill the space. The bass players fill the space. I'm playing bass Sunday again.
You are well done. You've been promoted.
But we can so easily take offense to that. But if we look at it from a heart of we're here to serve, it makes
you mentioned it earlier, and I think one word really sums it up. It's the culture.
Yeah.
What is the culture that you as a church or you as a worship team are cultivating?
Yeah.
And in that culture, hopefully it's a healthy one.
Yeah.
And as worship leaders, hopefully you are very pastoral and you have relationship. It's a word that keeps coming up between all three of us. And if we have that rapport and that relationship with our fellow team members, when we need to have these difficult conversations, it's respected and it's accepted because you've got that relationship.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it forms part of the culture of excellence.
Yeah. And we don't look down on our bases. We've got a running joke in our team. So we've actually got, I'm so appreciative of our team.
Yeah.
We've got an amazing team. We've got amazing people in our team. And we we build relationship, like I said, like that word comes up all the time, but we intentionally sit with each other, we chat to each other, we get to know each other, we get to know each other's strengths. I mean, we have WhatsApp groups for all the different departments, and we just chat and we joke around. And on a Sunday, we do groups where that team is on specifically, and the conversations that happen in those groups are so lighthearted and so uplifting, and it's so fun knowing that these are people that I'm going to worship with. These are people that I can relate to.
Yeah.
So when I make these jokes, no one takes it seriously.
Yeah.
No, everybody knows that we are here to serve a purpose. We all know what we're doing, and I think you said it earlier that we must be lighthearted. Sometimes we need to laugh a little. Sometimes because we spoke about it in the previous episode, that sacrifice. Waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning is not always fun. Yeah. So when somebody makes you laugh, or when Ali makes a joke or does a cartwheel on stage before service, it just lightens the mood, and it allows you to relax, and it allows you to have that space to, okay, I'm in a comfortable place and I can worship and I can lead my congregation. And I think that is so important, that we build relationship. I mean, one of our church's core values is that connection. We intentionally connect with people before service, after service. That's what we do. We intentionally go out and make sure that somebody's in the connect group, and it goes past our worship team. Whatever team you are serving in, we want you to have that connection, because
that's it.
The problem with that I feel with this mega church culture is that you get lost in the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't want. We want relationship. So if I'm in a connect group, or if I'm in a worship team, because we've got a fairly big worship team. Yeah. We essentially have 3 campuses, and we've got to have teams for each of those campuses. So that's kind of our need at the moment. So we don't have this big worship team just because we want to. We genuinely have a need. And the other thing that we intentionally do is to not have our team burn out, because if you do burn out, and if you're serving every single Sunday, you're probably going to tend to make more mistakes and have more fails and things like that. So that's why we have
more content for us to laugh
more
at.
Content for us to make jokes about. But we intentionally do that so that we can give our teams a break, and so that we can build relationship. I mean, whenever we start a team night or a team meeting, we always socialize first. Yeah. And I think it's on our wall behind us. We play hard, we have fun, we love Jesus, we connect, and that's what we do. That's the most important thing, is we have fails, we have our moments, we have these things that go wrong, but it's okay, because I have a relationship. Yeah. I have a relationship with my fellow worship leaders, I have a relationship with God, and it reminds me, like, what is our core values as Christians, is to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Yeah. That is what Jesus said we need to do. And if we do that, we'll be happy, we'll be fine, we'll be good to go, we'll have an amazing worship experience, even if there's mistakes.
That's right.
Even if things go wrong. I mean, how many times has things gone wrong for the disciples and stuff like that? But Jesus was still there. He corrected them when he needed to correct them. I mean, Peter cut a man's ear off, and Jesus was like, chill.
Yeah,
I got okay.
Just relax.
God's got this. Let's stay back.
So I think that is the most important, is what we can probably take out of this conversation is, there are mistakes, but build connection, build relationship, and still come to church.
That's it. Yeah. And you know what? If you fail and you make a terrible blunder, it's okay. If you feel a little embarrassed, if you feel, no one's going to shame you for it.
Yeah.
Just pick yourself up, laugh it off, just shake a little.
And just be better.
Just be better.
Just be better.
Because next week's coming, and guess what? By next week, the church have forgotten about your fail.
Yeah.
Sometimes we really just think they think about us all the time, but they actually don't. They forget about that moment the minute they walk out.
They're really not that special.
Sometimes they didn't even see that moment in the first place.
Exactly.
And then we have it stuck in our minds, and we like,
our pride just
so
thinks
bad.
it's so like, wow.
Yeah, but pride, that's another topic for a whole nother day.
That's a big topic,
But thank you so much for joining us again.
This was fun, guys.
This was an amazing conversation.
Jake, I've got one question for you before we wrap up.
How many fails did I do last week?
When are we going to cartwheel?
Sure. I don't think we have the space to do that, Ellie. I think
after we had pasta.
Okay. After pasta. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to doing this again with you, and as an encouragement to the people listening and to the people watching us on our social media platforms. Please stay connected. Doesn't matter what situation you're in, doesn't matter where you find yourself. I encourage you to find connection, build relationship, and love God.
Amen.
Hey.